What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my Lightroom tutorial series, and in today's video we are going to be talking about setting up presets for exporting your photos out of Lightroom. Now, this is something I touched on briefly in video number 3 of this series when I talked about exporting out of Lightroom, but I only touched on it briefly because I wanted to do a whole video about how to set up presets for exporting your photos. So that way, when you go to export your photos, it's a simple one click and the photo is exported out with the settings that you want, instead of going through the entire process of setting up where you want your photo to go and how you want your photo exported when you export your photos. So once again, we are using this photo of this tanker that I took out in Port Angeles, and I am just going to right click on the photo down in the film strip, and if I go to the export option, you'll see here down in user presets that I have a series of presets already built that I use when I want to export my photos for different uses, whether I'm sending it to my Etsy store or posting it to Facebook or Flickr or Instagram. I have different presets built for each one of those purposes. So I am just going to walk you guys through how to set up a preset. So I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to click on export. And again, if you look over here to the left, you will see all of my presets already set. If I select one, say if I wanted to export with my watermark to Facebook, it will gray out everything in the dialog box because it is defaulting to using the preset information that I have built into this preset. And if I go to hit export, it will export the photo with those presets. So I'm going to deselect this because I want to show you guys how to build a preset. So to set up a preset, you're going to go through the dialog boxes down here and set up all the settings as you would want, and then when you're ready, we will create the preset. So up here in export location, I'm just going to click choose, and I am going to navigate to where I want these files to be stored, and I'm going to go to my Lightroom exports folder. This is a master folder that I use for all my different photo destinations, and I'm just going to select create a new folder, and I'm going to call this export example because this is an example that I'm creating for you guys. And I am going to select the folder, and I'm going to hit select folder. So now I'm telling Lightroom, hey, send these photos to this specific folder. And then I am just going to not worry about file renaming. If you guys want to do any file renaming, you can go ahead and do that. And as always, you can go back to video number 3 of this tutorial series to see how I go about renaming my files here. And then I'm going to drop down to file settings, and for the sake of this example, I'm going to leave everything as is. JPEG, 80% quality, sRGB color space. I'm going to leave everything as if I was exporting to Facebook. So like I talked about in my first export video, if you wanted to export to Facebook as an example, Facebook likes its photos to be uploaded with a maximum of 2048 pixels on the long edge. If you were going to go to Instagram, for example, you might want to use 1080 pixels, and you would probably do that on the short edge. That is the way that Instagram likes to have its photos uploaded. But I am going to just go with 248 pixels on the long edge, resize to fit checkmarked. I'm going to leave the resolution at 240 pixels per inch. Output sharpening, I am going to select that. I'm going to say screen, standard amount. Metadata, I'm going to leave as is. And then watermark, I want my photos to be watermarked, so I leave watermark checkmarked. I don't want to do anything with the export process. And then I'm going to go over here to underneath the presets dropdowns, and I'm going to select add. And when you select add, this window will pop up, and in here you will type whatever you want your export preset to be called, whether that is going for Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, Etsy, any other social media sites, Twitter, whatever you can come up with. So I'm just going to call this export example, and then I'm going to hit create. Oh, and before I hit create, you want to put this in the folder, select user presets, or you can create a new folder. I just leave everything under user presets. So we're going to hit create, and then as you guys can see here over on the left, we have our new export preset setup. So if I check mark this, everything that I want gets grayed out, and Lightroom will export the photo with the settings that we have built for this preset. So that is the gist of how you build a preset to export your photos with Lightroom. I'm going to talk about one other thing really quickly, and that is adding a watermark to your export preset. I use a watermark because I have my photography page on Facebook and Instagram, and I market my photos as Ryan Much Photography, even though I don't have a photography business anymore. If you guys remember the first video of 2020, I talked about how I decided to put my photography business on hold, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. So I am just going to really quickly show you guys how to create a watermark. Now when I go into this drop down here, you can see I have two different built watermarks. This is an older watermark style that I had when I first started using watermarks in Lightroom. I kind of updated it a little while ago, and so I just called it Facebook Watermark 2. You can call it whatever you want. And then you have a simple copyright watermark here. And if I select this will just put a simple copyright watermark into the photos that you want. So it'll burn, in the corner it'll burn just a copyright into your photo when you export it. So I'm going to select the drop down, and I'm going to go to Edit Watermarks. And when I do that, this window pops up. And as you can see down here in the lower left hand corner, we have just a simple copyright put into the corner of your photo. And as you can see down here in the print column, we have copyright spelled out. You can select that and change it. Say I want to say copyright Ryan Much Photography. Then when I export my photos, it will have this copyright put in down in the corner. Now this is a rather big copyright, so I probably wouldn't have this here. I'd actually probably use the copyright symbol. To create the copyright symbol, what you're going to want to do is hold down Alt on your keyboard, then type 0169. And when you release Alt, the copyright symbol will pop up down here in the type column, and then from there you can type your name. Or if you have a photography business, you can say Ryan Much Photography, just referencing myself there as an example. And that looks a little bit more professional than just typing copyright, whatever your name is. So that's one way that you can do a copyright. Another way to do a copyright is if you've actually gone and had a logo for your business or for yourself designed, you can import that into Lightroom, and you can use that as your copyright symbol. So I am going to delete this here, and just as an example, I'm going to load my watermark into here so I can show you guys how to use that as your copyright symbol. So I am just going to navigate and grab my watermark that I designed myself in Photoshop. There's lots of tutorials out there about how to make watermarks in Photoshop, so I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other process. So as you can see here, it's a little hard to see, but if I highlight this box right here, my logo has been imported into Lightroom, and I'm just going to stretch this out so it's actually visible on the photo here. I'm going to go something like that, not too big so it doesn't like overpower the photo and become too noticeable, but something maybe just like that. And again, guys, I know that's really hard to see, but I promise that's my logo right there. And now I'm going to just drag the bar down here, and we come down to watermark effects. And this is where you can affect where you want your watermark to be placed in your photo. For me, I like having it down in the lower left-hand corner. But if you see down here where it says anchor, Lightroom has the ability to place your watermark or your copyright logo in different sections of the photo. So say, for example, I want it in the lower right-hand section instead of the lower left-hand section. I could click this little circle right here, and as you guys can see, it shifted my watermark over here to the lower right-hand section. If I wanted it in the upper right-hand section, again, I could just click that, and it puts it up there. And if I wanted dead center, same thing, dead center, although it's over the ship, so I wouldn't want that. I am just going to put it back in the lower right, or sorry, the lower left-hand corner. Now let's say you wanted a little bit finer control of wherever you wanted your watermark or copyright logo to be in the photo. Well, in this inset section right here, you can affect where you want the logo or watermark to be a little bit easier. So if I wanted to raise or lower my watermark, for example, I could grab this vertical slider and I can shift it one way or the other. And as you can see, my watermark is moving up and down as I move the slider up and down. So if I wanted my watermark to not be that high off of the bottom of the photo, I could slide it over here and I can put it just a little bit closer to the bottom of the photo. Same with horizontal, I can move it one way or the other. This just gives me a lot finer control over where I can place my logo. That's looking pretty good right there. Now you can also affect the opacity of your logo, and this is really good if you want your logo or copyright mark to be in the photo, but you don't want it to be overpowering. You can affect the opacity up here, and you can just grab this slider and drag it one way or the other. I know this is really hard to see, so I'm just going to enlarge my copyright or my logo, I should say, just to give you guys a better example here. And again, I can slide this one way or the other, and as you can see, my logo is getting less prominent and fading away as I slide it to the left. If I slide it back to the right and leave it at 100% opacity, you can see that it is much easier to see. I designed my watermark to not be too overpowering when I load it into my photos. I think I'm just going to drop this down to 80-ish%, and I definitely don't want it to be that big, so I'm going to drop it back down to what it was before. I think roughly about right there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And you can, again, affect the proportional size of your copyright logo or watermark by grabbing the proportion slider here, and again, you can slide it up and down to affect the size of your watermark or copyright logo. So once you're done, once you're happy with your copyright or your logo with the size and placement, you can hit save, and then once again it will come up with a new preset. And so I'm going to call this export example 2. And again, guys, why it comes up with a new preset is simply that way it gives you a preset to use when you want to add your watermark to a photo. So I am going to hit create, and as you can see down here in watermark, now we have another watermark example to choose from. Example 2, check marked, and that'll be the watermark that you use when you export the photos. Now, since I have changed the settings for our export preset, I'm going to have to go in and resave the export preset. Remember, if you make any changes to your export preset that you want to have saved, unfortunately, Lightroom doesn't give you the ability to overwrite a preset. You're going to have to create a brand new preset. So I'm going to hit add here, and I'm just going to call this export example 2. And I am going to hit create. And as you can see, we've got another preset available in our presets dropdown. So I am going to check mark this, and everything has been grayed out. We are good to go, and I am going to hit export. Lightroom is going to kick out this photo here in just a second. Sometimes Lightroom can be a little slow with exporting photos, but once it gets it done, it exports it really quickly. There we go. Now if I go to my file folder here and I go to my pictures, Lightroom exports, and I go to export example, we can see we have our photo here, and if I click on this and load the photo, as you can see down here, we have export the photo. Down in the corner, I have my logo, and it has been exported with the settings that we wanted to include when we opened up our export dialog window. So there you go, guys. Just a really quick example of how to set up export presets in Lightroom. I hope you found this tutorial useful. I'm sure you guys will appreciate that this one was much shorter than my last few tutorials. There's a lot of information to go through in Lightroom. So again, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed. And stay tuned. Got a few more videos in the pipeline for you guys. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.